everybody. I am Bob, and I am not a hospice chaplain at the moment, but I was. So I was in Oxford at Sir Michael Sobel House Hospice for 11 years. And together with my wife Sue and our dog Molly, we are now in France and have been trying to set up a centre for reflection over the last 3 years. We've had a few obstacles like Brexit and things like that. And I just to say, I do supervise some hospice chaplains. So I have been hearing about some of your experience. This session will last no longer than half an hour. I'm not quite sure how long it will take. I don't know about you, but you end up sitting for a wee bit of a long time, don't you, in these sessions? So I just encourage you to stand up for a moment and just wiggle around a bit and then sit down again. And what I'd like to invite you to do, first of all, is to be in your bodies. I did a spiritual direction training some years back in Sheffield, lovely time. And at the beginning of each session, we would do some centering of ourselves with the body. So I just want to invite you into that sort of space. You can turn your video off if you wish. If that's a distraction, you can close your eyes, keep your eyes open. The first thing is to find a place in your seat where you're reasonably comfortable. You might need to shuffle around a bit and put your feet on the floor, make contact with the floor. And to have your back, not like a ramrod, but comfortably upright, lifted up a wee bit out of your chair. And then become aware of your head and your face in particular. I'd invite you to gently tighten the facial muscles so that you're doing a sort of smile in a strange sort of way. Scrunch up your mouth and cheeks and relax them. Do the same around your eyes. Scrunch up your eyes gently. Do all of this very, very gently. And release the muscles in your eyes. We carry a lot of tension in our faces, don't we? Especially reactions to other people we make with our faces more than anything else. Just do a wiggle of the shoulders one way and then the other way. And then allow them to rest. Move your head from side to side, very, very gently. And gently up and down. And then find a nice position where your head wants to rest. I've forgotten the tongue. The tongue's weird. Sometimes it can stick to the top of our mouths, can't it? So just allow the mouth, the tongue to rest in its natural place in the mouth. Then lift up the elbows and just shake out the wrists, not violently, just a little bit. Open and close your palms, clench your fists, open your palm. And just allow your hands to rest where they need to rest Then push your feet up from your toes. Engage the muscles in your legs. Let your legs again make contact with the floor. Lift them up. Make contact with the floor. Become aware of your sitting position as well. How you're sitting. Going back to the feet. Sorry, I'm darting around. Going back to the feet. Imagine that your feet have roots and you're actually rooted in the ground. The roots going down and down. Poet Jared Manley Hopkins, in one of his poems, says, "Send my roots rain. Send my roots rain." And finally, just breathe. Become aware of the in-breath and the out-breath for a few moments. Then, finally, come back to the screen, little boxes. We've gone into ourselves a little bit, into our bodies. Now just reach your hands out across the screen to your neighbours, connect with people. So that you're aware of people around you now. We're here together in this space and time. Place your hands down again. Asked Mike to screen share for me. So Mike, would you put up the first of the slides, please? Walter Brueggemann came up with very interesting analysis of the Psalms in terms of orientation, disorientation, and new orientation. And this is Psalm 30. And it's a very good example of those three things. And first of all, just going to read out, but I'm going to start out from the middle, and I'm not going to read verses 1 to 5. And just let's think about those words: orientation, disorientation, new orientation, as I read. As for me, I said in my prosperity, I shall never be moved. By your favor, O Lord, you had established me as a strong mountain. You hid your face. I was dismayed. To you, O Lord, I cried, and to the Lord I made supplication. What profit is there in my death if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it tell of your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord, and be gracious to me. O Lord, be my helper. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have taken off my sackcloth and clothed me with joy, so that my soul may praise you and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. The time of orientation is the time of our stability. It's our normal day. It's where we know where we are with things. We're at peace with ourselves and people around us and with the universe. It's familiar stuff. It's when we get up in the morning and we know that the first thing we're going to do is to make ourselves a cup of coffee. It's comfortable time orientation. And in those words of the psalmist, I detect a slight smugness. I'm okay, God. And then the disorientation is everything thrown up in the air. And you don't know what's up and what is down. It's COVID-19, it's death, it's horrible. And what Brueggemann calls new orientation is not going back to business as usual. It's the touch of grace in Christian theology. It's something new that emerges out of the disorientation. It's a new place to be. And I wonder, as I was reading those words, and in what we're going to, as I was reading those words, where you place yourself at the moment. Are you in orientation? Are you in disorientation? Are you glimpsing new orientation? Mike, can we lose that for a moment? And I'd like to ask you to look around where you are, or go on a hunt for 3 objects now. Don't spend too long doing this. One that represents orientation, stability, the normal. One that represents disorientation. One that represents something different, the new orientation. Don't worry too much about it. There may be things on your desk, maybe things you obviously think of. The other possibility is that you just have a piece of paper and do 3 pictures, 3 or 3 words that come to you under those headings of orientation, disorientation, orientation. Just spend a moment having a think about that. Karen, you've got a cat back. Is your cat orientation, disorientation, or new orientation?
Oh, new, Bob, new, new, definitely. Yeah, she loves Zoom.
Have I given you enough time to find things or to jot things down if you wanted to jot things down? Okay. One of the things that I found myself doing when I was a hospice chaplain was writing poetry. And it was one of the ways that I processed what was going on. Some of you will write poetry, some of you will journal, some of you will write things more academically for papers, for journals. Writing, I find, is really helpful, especially when things are strange. So I'm going to share some of these poems. And Mike, can we have the next slide? So there are two poems here that I feel represent orientation. Summer. The river's had her fill of rain now, still bearing the silt of those long grey days. She sparkles with flecks of careless joy. They spring, fresh and free, from the slow, wet dark into summer's outstretched arms. Could you scroll down? Right. This was from a time when day centres could be open. If we could dance. The hospice has a special place where life is grafted onto death, and mortal wounds are salved each day with tea and biscuits, smiling volunteers, and a good sleep after lunch. I step inside the special place, and music welcomes me. She lifts her hands with a gentle smile, inviting me to the dance. We slowly move across the floor, she with the grace of one who holds her pain so lightly, and I with two embarrassed feet. The river has a special place, where light and dark move cheek to cheek across the water's calm. Below, the deep. Above, an arc of evening sky. They meet, touch, weave pain with patient joy. Could we come back, Mike, to one another? I invite you to, if you have got an object that represents orientation, that known space, perhaps the old place of stability, normality. Perhaps it's a word on a piece of paper or an image on a piece of paper. Be present to it. Hold it in your hand. Say the word to yourself. Look at the image. And just say to yourself, what does this mean to me at the moment? Orientation. What's it say to me? And then we move on to disorientation. So I invite you to put that object down for a minute. Mike, could we have the next poems, please? Sunken boats. I'm afraid of these sunken boats at the water's edge. What a terrible mass of water weighs them down and down and down. A living space so thoroughly filled with cold, dark. There they lie, pinned, unboated, while all around them lives and breathes and goes. This unprotested, sullen defeat is how it always ends. My final capitulation to King Death. And the next one, right. The psychiatrist, Carl Gustav Jung, suggested that when we dream and we remember our dreams, we could dream the dream on. So in a waking state, we could continue the dream and see what happened. It's something I commend to you, actually. And this is at the heart of this is a weird dream. That then by dreaming the dream on, I turned it into a poem. Care crash. I can no longer go. My care is covered with baked beans. Well, the bonnet, to be precise. The place of power, which keeps the care moving along the road. Engulfed with little beans now. Nutritious, cheap, and deadly in large numbers. The progress of the care, her careful royal progress, was stopped short by one backfiring fart. What to do? Nothing. I sit holding the steering wheel, watching beans splattered on the windscreen. Some of them are slipping down very, very slowly. Then, summoning all of my courage, I get out of the car. I carefully close the door. I lie down on the ground. I curl up like a little puppy dog. I go to sleep. Thank you, Mike. If we could come back together again. And I invite you to take a second object in your hands, which represents disorientation. Or look at the word in front of you, the image in front of you. Be with that object. What's it saying to you? What's it like? What's your experience in this moment as you're present to disorientation? And then place your object down. And like the last couple of pads. So what does new orientation look like? I wonder. Falling. There are worse things than falling. Not falling, for one. Raindrops fall on the thirsty ground, and sunlight falls on your upturned face. So, if it's not so bad to fall, why not jump and land in a heap in your very own soul? And the last one. There was a time when I decided to create a labyrinth in a fairly small chapel, but we had a wooden floor. So we got people in to sand the floor for us. Made an almighty racket, making a labyrinth in Sobel House Chapel. There is a way. There is always a way. But when I look at the sanded floor, clean as a desert, I wonder where it is. The path will find us when we trust. Varnish and paint will flow and mark the way. A needful, graceful way for walking a life with feet and soul. Thank you, Mike. And finally, if you take in your hand, if you have a third object, what does new orientation feel like? What's it like to sit there in front with this object or in front of an image or a word? So finally, at the end of this afternoon, at the end of this soul nourishment time, could I invite you to stand up if you're comfortable standing up? And first of all, put your hands clenched together as we offer everything that has been challenging for us over these months. Perhaps challenging today as well. And open our hands to give thanks for all that we've received. And to place hands on our heart for where we have been connected with one another, with the one some of us name as God, connected inside ourselves deeply. So as Karen said, this is the end of the afternoon. So go well, good people.